Do you change your oil every 3,000, 5,000, or 10,000 miles? Be careful, because any one of those answers could be wrong for your car. If you change it too early, you may be wasting money. But if you wait too long, you could speed up internal engine wear. And no, the right answer does not depend only on whether you use conventional oil, a synthetic blend, or full synthetic. It depends on your vehicle, your engine, the type of oil it requires, the way you drive, and the conditions you drive in. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple 3-category method that can help you figure out the right oil change interval without making things complicated. And at the end, I'll give you 5 simple steps to help you find the correct answer for your specific car in less than 2 minutes. Let's start with the most important rule. Your owner's manual should always come before any general recommendation you hear online. The manufacturer knows the engine design, the oil capacity, the required viscosity, and the maintenance intervals used during testing. That's why saying every car should get an oil change every 3,000 miles is too broad of a recommendation for modern engines. Some vehicles require relatively short intervals. Others can go longer when they're using the correct oil and being driven under normal conditions. Even two people who own the exact same model may need different oil change intervals if one drives mostly on the highway and the other uses the car for city deliveries. So don't look for one magic number. First, figure out how your vehicle is actually being used, and then check the maintenance schedule that applies to your situation. To understand why oil needs to be changed in the first place, you need to know what engine oil actually does. Its main job is to reduce friction and wear. It also helps control temperature, cleans internal surfaces, carries contaminants, and protects engine components from corrosion and deposits. During combustion, the engine produces particles, moisture, gases, and other byproducts. Some of those contaminants eventually make their way into the engine oil. The oil filter captures many of the solid particles, while the oil keeps other contaminants suspended so they don't build up on internal engine parts. But engine oil does not maintain its properties forever. Heat, time, and normal operation gradually deplete its additives. The oil can also oxidize, thicken, and become overloaded with contaminants. That's why an oil change is about more than just replacing dirty oil. You're restoring both the lubricant and the protective additives your engine depends on. Instead of starting with the question, how many miles should I wait? Answer these 3 questions first. Question number 1. What is the normal oil change interval listed in your owner's manual, or shown by your vehicle's electronic oil life monitoring system? Question number 2. Does the way you drive fall under any of the conditions your manufacturer considers severe or special use? And question number 3. How many months have passed? Even if you don't drive very much, some vehicles also have a time-based limit. Once you answer those 3 questions, we can place your driving into category A, B, or C. And these categories are not based simply on how much you care about your car. They're based mainly on how hard your engine is actually working, because heavy traffic, short trips, and towing can sometimes put more stress on the engine than a long highway drive. Category A is for vehicles that operate under severe conditions, or for drivers who want to follow a more conservative maintenance schedule. One common example is taking a lot of very short trips, especially when the engine doesn't stay at normal operating temperature for very long. Spending hours in heavy traffic, leaving the engine idling for long periods, or constantly driving at low speeds may also be considered severe use. That matters because your engine can run for hours even when the odometer shows that you've driven very few miles. Taxi drivers, rideshare drivers, delivery drivers, and mobile service workers can go through far more startup cycles, idle time, and heat cycles than the average driver. Towing a trailer, carrying heavy loads, or using a roof rack can also increase engine workload, depending on the vehicle. Driving mostly on dusty or unpaved roads is another condition that may be included in a manufacturer's severe service schedule. Repeated short trips in extremely cold weather may also fall under special operating conditions for some vehicles. If you're in category A, don't automatically choose 3,000 or 5,000 miles. Instead, find the severe service schedule for your specific vehicle. On some vehicles, that schedule significantly shortens the interval. For example, certain Toyota models may call for oil changes every 5,000 miles or 6 months under specific operating conditions. But remember, that's just an example. It is not a universal rule. Your Ford, Honda, Chevrolet, BMW, diesel vehicle, or any other car may have a completely different recommendation. The rule for Category A is simple. Follow the manufacturer's severe service interval and use the exact oil viscosity and specification your vehicle requires. Category B represents normal driving, and this is probably where many modern vehicle owners will fall. Think of reasonably long trips, a normal mix of city and highway driving, light loads, and very little extended idling. In this category, follow the normal interval listed in the owner's manual or wait for the oil life monitor to tell you when service is due, depending on your vehicle. Some modern cars may call for an oil change every 5,000 miles. Others may recommend 7,500 miles, 10,000 miles, or an interval calculated electronically by the vehicle. Longer oil change intervals do not automatically mean the manufacturer wants your engine to fail right after the warranty ends. But they also don't mean every driver should push the oil all the way to the maximum interval without considering how the car is actually being used. A 10,000-mile interval that is approved for one vehicle does not automatically make 10,000 miles safe for every engine. Different engines can have different oil capacities, operating temperatures, turbochargers, oil consumption rates, engine calibrations, and lubrication requirements. That's also why you shouldn't blindly copy your friend's oil change interval, even if your cars look similar or use the same oil viscosity. If your vehicle has an oil life monitor, remember to reset it after the oil and filter have been changed properly. And keep your receipts. Write down the date, mileage, oil viscosity, oil specification, and the filter you used. The rule for Category B is to follow the normal maintenance schedule without shortening it just because you're worried, and without extending it simply because of something you read online. Category C is for vehicles that don't get driven very much. That includes weekend cars, sports cars, classic cars, second vehicles, and other cars that only see a few miles each year. This is where a very common mistake happens. People assume they don't need an oil change because they've only driven 1,000 or 2,000 miles. The mileage may be low, but time is still passing. The engine still goes through cold starts, warm-up cycles, moisture exposure, and long periods of sitting. That's why you need to look at both the mileage limit and the time limit, and follow whichever comes first. If your manual says 10,000 miles or 12 months, that does not mean you should wait 5 years until the car finally reaches 10,000 miles. At the same time, there's no reason to invent a 3-month oil change schedule if the manufacturer allows a longer interval and the vehicle is being stored properly. The rule for Category C is simple. Pay attention to the time limit, keep the oil at the correct level, and change it when the required amount of time has passed, even if you haven't reached the mileage limit. If the vehicle is stored for long periods, also follow the manufacturer's recommendations for storage and battery maintenance. Now let's talk about synthetic oil. Yes, synthetic oil usually offers better stability in extreme temperatures and can support longer intervals when the engine is designed for them. But using synthetic oil does not automatically mean you can add another 1,000, 3,000, or 5,000 miles to your normal oil change interval. The interval depends on the entire system: the engine, oil capacity, filter, required specification, driving conditions, and the maintenance schedule set by the manufacturer. Use the recommended viscosity, such as 0W20 or 5W30, but make sure you also check the required certification or manufacturer specification. And what about the oil filter? For most owners, the simplest and safest approach is to replace the filter when you change the oil, whenever the maintenance schedule calls for it. Putting fresh oil into the engine while leaving behind a saturated filter, or a filter that was not designed for that service interval, can reduce the benefit of the maintenance you just paid for. Now let's go through the 5-step method. Step 1. Identify the exact year, make, model, and engine in your vehicle. Step 2. Open the owner's manual and find the sections for engine oil, maintenance schedule, and severe or special operating conditions. Step 3. Identify the correct viscosity, oil specification, oil capacity, and whether the filter should be replaced during the same service. Step 4. Compare your real driving habits with the severe service list. Be honest about idling, short trips, dusty roads, heavy loads, and towing. Step 5. Record the mileage and date of your last oil change. Follow whichever limit comes first and set a reminder for your next service.